The Boston Celtics have entered a phase that feels less like a typical offseason and more like a strategic chess match unfolding in real time. The story developing in Boston combines calculated front office decisions, unexpected cultural shifts, and now a surprising international addition that could carry weight well beyond this season. This is not just about filling minutes while Jayson Tatum recovers from injury. It is about shaping the foundation of what the franchise wants to be in the next decade. The latest headline that has caught the attention of analysts across the league is the reported agreement between the Celtics and Kasparas Jakucionis, one of the brightest young guards to emerge from Europe. At only 18 years old, Jakucionis arrives from the famed Barcelona system, a program known for producing some of the most intelligent and skilled players in modern basketball. Boston's interest is not accidental. His reputation for sharpshooting, creativity in pick-and-roll situations, and court vision well beyond his age has already made him one of the most intriguing prospects in European basketball. For a franchise balancing short-term challenges with long-term planning, the signing of Jakucionis signals an approach that goes beyond patchwork solutions. The Celtics are not looking for temporary fixes. They are investing in a player whose development could become a defining storyline of the next era. In Europe, Jakucionis was praised for his ability to control pace and create opportunities against older competition, a skill that translates well to the NBA game where decision-making is as valuable as raw athleticism. While he is not expected to immediately replace a star, the Celtics see him as a piece that can grow into a role of significance alongside Tatum and Jaylen Brown. The move also highlights a growing trend in Boston's strategy. While trade rumors swirl around established names and expensive contracts, the Celtics are simultaneously reaching into international markets for untapped potential. This dual approach creates flexibility. It allows the front office to make bold moves in the short term without sacrificing the future. By bringing in Jakucionis now, the organization positions itself to either develop him into a core contributor or use his rising value as leverage in future roster construction. Either path strengthens Boston's hand in a league where flexibility often decides championships. Meanwhile, Jaylen Brown steps into his heaviest spotlight yet. With Tatum sidelined, he must prove he can handle the pressure of being the undisputed first option. His recent promise to fans was more than rhetoric. It was a declaration that he intends to carry not just the scoring load, but also the emotional weight of the season. The arrival of Jakucionis may not directly lighten Brown's responsibilities, but it sends a message that Boston is surrounding its stars with players who bring intelligence and adaptability, qualities that can change the flow of a season in subtle but critical ways. Off the court, Tatum continues to influence the cultural narrative of the franchise. His reinvention, even symbolized through something as simple as a new hairstyle, reflects a willingness to embrace change. It fits the larger theme of a year defined by transition and preparation. The Celtics are not frozen by adversity, they are evolving, and Tatum's transformation mirrors the direction of the team as a whole. What makes the acquisition of Kasparas Jakucionis especially intriguing is timing. Bringing in a player of his profile during a season without Tatum creates room for experimentation. It gives Boston a chance to test rotations, measure how Jakucionis adapts to the NBA environment, and identify where he can make an impact before the roster is fully intact again. Seasons that appear challenging on the surface sometimes reveal unexpected breakthroughs. If Jakucionis shows flashes of the talent that made him a standout in Europe, Boston may find itself ahead of schedule in its long-term vision. Taken together, the signing of Jakucionis, the trade discussions that continue to circle the roster, Jaylen Brown's leadership pledge, and Tatum's ongoing reinvention paint a picture of a franchise in transition, but far from decline. The Celtics are building with layers, mixing international scouting with financial strategy and star development. For fans, this season becomes more than a waiting game. It is the unveiling of future possibilities, the moment where names like Kasparas Jakucionis step onto the stage and begin to shape how history will remember this era of Boston basketball. It is not a year to wait, and it is not a year to rebuild. For Payton Pritchard and for the Boston Celtics, it is a year to prove that resilience is stronger than speculation, a year to step into a spotlight that many thought would fade. When Pritchard said there's no such thing as a gap year in Boston, he was not simply giving a motivational soundbite, he was throwing a message into the heart of the league. This season is not about patience, it is about rewriting the narrative of what people believe the Celtics are without their usual stars. The idea of Pritchard becoming the starting point guard of the future would have sounded like fantasy a year ago, but now it stands as one of the central questions of the upcoming campaign. What makes this story so fascinating is not just his shooting percentages or his reputation as a hard worker, it is the context. He is walking into a role that has been defined by legends and veterans, and instead of being intimidated, he is embracing the chaos. Boston has just parted ways with high-profile names, and that vacuum has created something rare in professional sports, a genuine opportunity for a player who was once considered a complementary piece to take command. While analysts debate Anthony Simons versus Payton Pritchard, the more important question is whether Boston wants a future led by an individual scorer or by someone who understands the cultural identity of the franchise. Simons is an electrifying offensive guard, but his career has unfolded on teams without a history of contention. Pritchard, by contrast, has been raised in the exact opposite environment, an organization where every season is defined by championship expectations. That contrast is not simply about talent, it is about mental preparation, about knowing how to perform when games matter in May and June. There's also a financial layer that makes this debate even more intriguing. Anthony Simons is tied to a contract worth more than $27 million for this season, while Pritchard represents both a cheaper and more flexible option. In a league where the second luxury tax apron is forcing front offices to think 2 and 3 years ahead, Brad Stevens and the Celtics ownership have to evaluate not just who plays better today, but who allows the roster to remain competitive tomorrow. Keeping Pritchard in a bigger role is not just basketball strategy, it is long-term roster engineering. And then comes the most shocking part. While the public has been focusing on the loss of names like Drew Holiday and Kristaps Porzingis, behind the scenes Boston has been reshaping its identity in silence. The rumor that there were conversations with Brooklyn involving Anthony Simons should make fans pause. It means that Stevens is not married to any single piece, that flexibility is being valued over star names, and that every transaction is part of a bigger chessboard. If Brooklyn's demands for draft capital were too high, that only confirms that Boston is protecting its future assets for a move that could redefine the next 5 years. In the middle of all this, Pritchard is not just speaking like a professional, he is speaking like a leader. He is saying that the goal is not individual accolades or chasing numbers, but controlling the controllable and helping his team win. That is the kind of mentality that earns trust in locker rooms, that convinces coaches to extend rotations, and that gives front offices confidence when deciding who to build around. It is not about whether he starts Game 1 in October, it is about whether he convinces everyone by April that he belongs with the ball in his hands in the fourth quarter of a playoff series. And there are reinforcements arriving quietly to support this mentality. Chris Boucher, who once ran alongside Pritchard in Oregon, is now wearing green. His ability to bring relentless energy and stretch the floor at 36% from deep could be one of the most underrated signings of the entire summer. While names like Al Horford and Luke Cornett have departed, Boucher represents the kind of high-motor player who can thrive next to guards who push pace and create chaos. Pritchard himself acknowledged that Boucher never gets tired, and in a season where depth and conditioning will matter more than ever, that trait could prove decisive. The frontcourt may not look glamorous on paper with Nemias Quetta, Xavier Tillman, and Amari Williams fighting for minutes, but sometimes the league forgets that championships are not only built on stars, they are built on cohesion and relentless effort. Boston knows this better than anyone. Every time the Celtics have been counted out historically, they have responded by surprising the basketball world. This year is shaping up to be another chapter of that story. So here is the real question, one that no statistic or preseason prediction can answer yet. Will Payton Pritchard seize this opening and establish himself as the heartbeat of a new era? Or will Boston use its financial flexibility to engineer another shockwave trade before the deadline? Either way, what is certain is that this is not a gap year. It is a test of faith, of patience, and of vision. And for the Celtics, history shows that when the league doubts them, that is usually when they are at their most dangerous. NBA thrives on speculation, and the Boston Celtics have always been a franchise that draws the loudest and boldest trade rumors. Yet every once in a while, a proposal surfaces that forces you to stop and ask yourself if people really understand what Boston is building. The latest suggestion is one of those cases. The idea of sending Hugo González, a 19-year-old rookie with rare two-way promise, to the Washington Wizards in exchange for Justin Champagny and a second-round pick in the year 2026 is not only questionable, it is baffling when you peel back the layers of context that actually matter. To understand why this proposal falls apart, you need to look at the underlying dynamics. The Celtics are not a team grasping for temporary solutions. Brad Stevens has consistently shown that every move is calculated with the future in mind, whether it is taking a bold swing at a star or finding undervalued contracts that protect financial flexibility in a league driven by salary cap gymnastics. Stevens has never been afraid to act, but he has also never been reckless. Trading Gonzalez for Champagny would represent a rare misstep because the balance of value is entirely skewed. Champagny is 24 years old, has floated between rosters, and while he has moments of efficiency, his ceiling is clear. He is an energy player, not a cornerstone. Gonzalez, on the other hand, represents something far more intriguing. Before he even stepped onto an NBA court, Gonzalez had already been tested in one of the most demanding environments in world basketball, Real Madrid, a system that produces professionals who understand pressure, winning culture, and adaptability at a young age. This is not a player you move in a minor deal. This is a player you protect until you are certain that his ceiling has been reached, because the cost of giving up too early could be catastrophic in hindsight. What makes the timing of this rumor even stranger is the current trajectory of the Celtics. Yes, the team faces the challenge of Jayson Tatum's recovery from a ruptured Achilles, but that is not a reason to backtrack. It is a reason to double down on internal development, to give players like Gonzalez the stage to prove whether they can carry pieces of a load. Boston has no incentive to strip away one of the few rookies who actually fits the archetype of the modern NBA wing, especially when the financial aspect favors keeping him. Gonzalez is on a cost-controlled rookie contract that is worth less than $500,000 more than Champagny's deal, which makes the swap even more senseless. Think about how teams around the league operate when they sense they have a player with untapped potential. They hold, they develop, and they wait. When you consider that Gonzalez was selected in the first round for his blend of athleticism, size, and instincts, it is obvious that Boston has every reason to keep him under their umbrella. He is not the kind of prospect you throw into the market unless you are using him as a piece in a blockbuster deal that redefines the franchise's trajectory. The true curiosity lies in what Gonzalez could become if given the runway. Standing 6'6" and weighing 205 pounds, he brings the frame of a switchable defender with the instincts to disrupt passing lanes. Add to that his flashes of playmaking, and the Celtics suddenly have the foundation of a wing who could impact both ends of the floor, something that is becoming increasingly valuable in a league dominated by versatility. While analysts are busy speculating about how Boston can trim payroll or reshuffle depth pieces, the actual story may be happening within the walls of the roster itself, with Gonzalez's growth turning into one of the biggest X factors of the next 2 seasons. This is why the rumored trade is not just flawed, it is irrelevant to the true mission. Boston's future is not about chasing marginal upgrades in August. It is about preparing for the moment Jayson Tatum returns and making sure the team around him is built not only to compete, but to dominate. That future could very well hinge on players like Gonzalez, who bring the kind of long-term upside that you simply cannot buy on the trade market without paying an extraordinary premium. To move him now for Champagny would be to exchange tomorrow's lottery ticket for today's loose change. And that is the real story here. Boston is not operating out of desperation. They are not in a position to sell off the future for temporary filler. If anything, they are positioning themselves to emerge from this period stronger than expected. The Celtics have a history of identifying talent before others see it, and Gonzalez might be the next example. The question that remains is not whether he should be traded, but how soon he can prove that Boston's patience was the smartest decision of all.